So we find the beautiful example of Bharat. And even though he was misunderstood, but he never forsake the shelter of Lord Ram. Beautiful example of Bharat and his surrender. Then in Aranyakan, we find the sages in the forest of Aranya, how they developed such loving propensity that they wanted to serve the Lord in the ras of conjugal ras. And the Lord said, when I come as Lord Krishna, then you can become gopis. So in this way, they exhibited their surrender to Lord Ramachandra. In Kishkinda Kand, we find Sugriv surrendering in friendship to Lord Ram. Then we find in Sundar Kand, Trijata was a demoness, but when Hanuman came to the Shokvati, he was surprised to see this demoness encouraging the other demonic associates to surrender to Lord Ram. She had a dream of Lord Ram, and she was encouraging others to surrender to Lord Ram. Then we find in Yuddhakan, Vibhishan surrenders to Lord Ram. And it is described that Vibhishan's surrender, his surrender is a perfect example of all 6 limbs of surrender. So Ramayana has many, many, many lessons in terms of surrender. In fact, we could possibly have a whole series of Saranagati just looking at Ramayana. So let us look at our Bhakti Shastras, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, because these scriptures are said to be the emperors of all scripture knowledge in creation. And they give the highest understanding of the Supreme Lord and the highest destination of our relationship with the Supreme Lord through the principle of Saranagati. Prabhupada, in the introduction to Bhagavad-Gita, he writes, just what is Bhagavad-Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad-Gita is to deliver mankind from the missions of material existence. This is a sutra. We should memorize this sutra. If somebody asks you, what is Bhagavad-Gita? You should be able to tell them. The purpose of Bhagavad-Gita is to deliver mankind from the missions of material existence. Prabhupada says, every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna was also in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad-Gita was spoken. So because Arjuna was in difficulty, he surrendered. That was the solution. Prabhupada says, not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other, we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jignasa, Tato Brahma Jignasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students of understanding Bhagavad Gita. A sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Got it. So Prabhupada is making the point that when one understands that one is suffering and one wants to make a solution to that, he will naturally follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. In the 9th chapter, which is the chapter that Krishna really wants to share devotional service to us. And in the 18th verse, Krishna says, Gatir Bharata Prabhu Shakshi Nivasha Sharanam Surit Prabhava Pralaya Stanam Nidanam Bijam Avyayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. So we see, it's interesting, Krishna says, I'm the Gatir, the goal, the destination. And he also says, I'm the refuge, Sharanam. But that Sharanam is not of an exploiter. That Sharanam is related to Surit, Sharanam Surit. I'm the most dear friend. So this is why I said that the aspect of material surrender is totally different from spiritual surrender, spiritual Saranagati, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because when one takes shelter of the lotus feet, it's not about exploitation. It's about a divine, blissful, loving relationship. Prabhupada in the purport says, Gati means the destination where we want to go. But the ultimate goal is Krishna, although people do not know it. One who does not know Krishna is misled. And his so-called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods. And by rigid performance of strict respective methods, they reach different planets known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Mahaloka, etc. But all such lokas or planets being creations of Krishna, simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Such planets being manifestations of Krishna's energies are also Krishna, but actually they serve only as a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. So those who surrender to any other personality or aspect of the Lord but the Lord, they are indirectly surrendering to the Lord. And they're wasting time and energy. Consider, if I had to ask you all a question, right now, are you surrendered to something or someone? Please type in the chat. Are you surrendered to someone or something? And if you say no, that's okay. If you say yes, just put dash, what are you surrendered to? Give an example. So are you surrendered to something or someone? Mother Lorraine said yes. Can share with us what you surrender to. So Radhika says yes to Lord Krishna. Sham says yes to Lord Krishna. Lorraine said yes to society. Very good. Yes to family, children. Yes. Yes. I suppose work. Yes, we surrender to work. My job. Yes. My senses. Very good. So there's surrender there. You surrender to your home. You surrender to Krishna. I'm giving life to Krishna. Krishna is controlling me completely. Good. Very good. So we surrendering to the laws of material nature, birth, death, disease, and old age. Everyone is surrendering to these things. Nobody can say, no, I don't want them, and I'm not going to have them. Nope. You're surrendering to death. So everyone is surrendering. But surrendering to death is indirect surrender to Krishna. And if you indirectly surrender to Krishna, you don't get this surit. You don't get this love and care. You get the reverse. You get the converse. Right? So surrender, you must. But Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is encouraging us to surrender directly to him. So the Vedas, Prabhupada, in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, in the introduction, first verse, Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita starts where the other scriptures from all other traditions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, where they end, Bhagavad Gita starts. And where Bhagavad Gita ends, Srimad Bhagavatam starts. And where Srimad Bhagavatam ends, Chaitanya Charitamrita starts. And where Chaitanya Charitamrita ends, there is no beginning and end. It is eternal. That is the climax. So, the Vedas is the source of all knowledge. And the essence of the Vedas is Bhagavad Gita. Now we're going to hear the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So the essence of the Vedas. And these two verses are the essence of all knowledge. These are the two verses that we should absorb, we should focus, we should remember, and we should try to apply in our life. So 1865. Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad jaji mam namaskuru mam evashyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my dear friend. And then 1866, after the Lord shared many, many different processes of yogas, different aspects of knowledge, etc., Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. The word sharanam. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasyamima sucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. These two verses go hand in hand. How do we know that one is surrendering? Mam ekam sharanam. Only me, Krishna says. Surrender to me. How does one know that one is surrendering to Krishna? That is shown in text 1865. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Offer your homage unto me. And thus you will come to me without fail. So when you apply these instructions of Krishna in your life, you try to always think of Krishna, you try to become a devotee of Krishna, you try to worship Krishna, and you offer your homage to Krishna. That is Sharanam Vraja. And if you do that, Krishna says, I shall protect you, I shall deliver you from all reactions. Do not fear. So this is the essence of Saranagati from Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to play a video clip. Here Srila Prabhupada speaking about this verse in relation to surrender. And then we'll just speak a little about what Prabhupada says. Very, very beautiful.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam. Yes.
Have you it's a person who says they're suffering when they sign a day and don't try to die. Someone who is not afraid to die and says that he's not suffering
He's a madman. That's all. Who is caring for madman's work?
It's very easy to convince some people that they're not their bodies, but it's not very easy to convince them that they're not their mind. There's some way we can...
That will take time. How can we expect? In 1 minute everyone will understand everything. It requires education, time. If he is prepared to give the time, then he will understand. Not that within 5 minutes, 10 minutes he will understand the whole thing. That's not possible. He is a diseased man. He requires treatment, medicine, and diet. In this way he will understand. A diseased man, if he doesn't care for medicine, diet, then he'll suffer. That's all. Yes? Anyone? No?
Could be here lifetime after lifetime performing impulse activities, or was it meant to be lifetime after lifetime performing pious activities to develop simple reactions?
We have been here for many lifetimes performing sinful activities. So is it possible to counteract all those sinful activities in one lifetime, or does it require many
1 minute. That is Krishna consciousness movement. 1 minute. You are not reading Bhagavad-Gita? What Krishna says? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekang saranang braja ongta sarva papebha mokshayami. You surrender unto me, give up your all business. I will give you relief from all sinful reaction. Immediately. It requires 1 minute. My dear Krishna, I was forgotten, now I understand, I fully surrender unto you. Then you become immediately free from all sin. Without any reservation, without any politics. If you fully surrender, Krishna is assuring, Aham tva sarva papi homokhaisami masucho. He reassures. Don't worry whether I will be able to give you relief from all reaction. Masucho. It is guaranteed. You do this. So, how much time it requires to surrender to Krishna? Immediately you can do that. Surrender means you surrender and work as Krishna says. That is surrender. What Krishna says to do. Manmana bhavamad bhakta madhyajimang namaskuru. 4 things. You always think of me and you become my devotee, you worship me and offer your respectful obeisances, and you do these 4 things. That is full surrender. Mami vaishasi asangsa. Then you come to me without any doubt. Everything is there. Krishna has given everything fully. If you accept it, then life is very simple. There is no difficulty.
Life is very simple, there's no difficulty. Prabhupada, if you caught that first part, the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, if someone says that they're not fearful of death, and they don't mind dying, what can we say about, it's like they're not fearful of death, and are they happy? So Prabhupada says, if somebody says they're not fearful of death and they're happy, then is a fool. It's a madman. And we don't listen to madmen. Because nobody wants to die and everyone is fearful. And Prabhupada very beautifully says, you can surrender, you can become free from all your sinful reactions in 1 minute. So surrender really takes 1 minute. The challenge is, it takes us more than a minute to surrender, and we're going to cover why. So there's two types of surrender. There's this one type of surrender in the form of, or the example of Draupadi. Krishna takes charge of anyone who surrenders to him in helplessness. She was completely helpless. So that's the first type of surrender. And the second type of surrender is Arjuna. Arjuna also fully surrendered. And Krishna told him, Mam anusmara yudhyacha, think of me and fight. So these are two aspects of surrender. The one is an example of Draupadi. So Draupadi, she initially tried to protect herself. She also thought the Pandavas would protect her. She taught the gurus, the teachers, the king, they will all protect her, but no one in that assembly was able to protect her. And even when she was trying to hold on, trying to protect herself, thinking she can protect herself, still she was being disrobed. She even raised one hand to Krishna, Krishna help, but she was still holding on to the sari. And Krishna did not respond. Then she gave both hands up. And when she gave both hands up, that's the only time Krishna incarnated as the saris and protected Draupadi from being disrobed. So this is a beautiful example of full surrender. Krishna is waiting for that. When we fully surrender, that's when our surrender is complete. Until then, we are trying to surrender 1%, 2%, 3%, and we're continuing. And that may take lifetimes, or it can take 1 minute. It depends on each individual devotee. How long or how little time they want to take. So that's the first example. Fully giving oneself to Krishna and letting Krishna do everything, control the situation. Not on your own, because we don't have the strength, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the ability to control every situation. So we give ourselves to Krishna. My Lord, you decide how you want to deal with me. So that's the first type of surrender. Total dependence on Krishna. Because why? We are totally incapable. One type of surrender. The next type of surrender is Arjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight. Arjuna is not saying, okay, Krishna, I give up, you can fight. No. Arjuna is using his abilities as a warrior to fight. Right? So he's employing his skills and abilities in the service of Krishna. He's surrendering his abilities and skills in the service of Krishna. So this is totally different from Draupadi. Draupadi surrendered total in terms of helplessness. Arjuna employed his skill, his ability in fighting. He was very expert. So it's not that when you surrender, you're lazy. Okay, I surrender, Krishna, you can, maintain my house. You can maintain my family. You can bring the money. No, you have to work hard like Arjuna. You have to employ your skills very intelligently so that the circumstance, the situation is like it depends on you. At the same time, Krishna told Arjuna, think of me. Why? Because Krishna showed Arjuna who already killed all the soldiers. It was Krishna. So the battle was already won. Krishna already showed Arjuna. Arjuna just had to become the instrument using his skills. So both of these examples should be employed or cultivated within ourselves. How? Like this. You should work externally in such a way that the results depends on your ability and skill. At the same time, internally, you should be surrendering to Krishna completely like Draupadi, understanding that it is ultimately up to the Lord what should be the result. However the Lord wants the result to be, so be it. So externally, completely employing one's skill, internally, totally depending on the Lord's mercy and outcome. He's in control. Ishwara Parama Krishna. He's the Ishwar. He's the supreme controller. So whatever, Lord, whatever you desire, whatever you want to protect me, you want to forsake me, you want to handle me roughly by your embrace, whatever, my Lord, I am totally dependent on you, like Draupadi. Protect me or not, it's up to you, my Lord. At the same time, externally, with great skill, dexterity, ability, intelligence, you are fighting, you are acting. So both types of surrender should be there. In Saranagati, there are three main qualities. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is described, beautiful verse, Sharanagattera akinchanera eka lakshana tara madhya praveshya atma samarpana. There are two kinds of devotees. Those who are fully satiated and free from all material desires, and those who are fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Their qualities are one and the same, but those who are fully surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet are qualified with another transcendental quality, Atma Samarpana, fully surrender without reservation. So when one surrenders, the idea akinchana, one is detached, one is giving up. Okay, so this aspect of renunciation, giving up. But in Saranagati, there is detachment, but there is detachment with Atma Samarpana. One is giving up oneself to the Lord. Right? One is allowing the Lord to take care. So the detachment is there in both a renunciate, somebody who's totally renounced, at the same time to someone who's practicing Saranagati. But in Saranagati, there's this aspect of giving oneself. We were sharing yesterday, this morning, today also with the devotees, that we really can't renounce. Today is the disappearance of Srila Gaurkisha's Babaji Maharaj. And he was the emblem, the epitome of renunciation. He exhibited such high level of renunciation. We gave three examples. One is he would take the clothes of the corpses. People would burn bodies, the corpse would then be pushed into the Ganges. He would take that cloth and wear that cloth. His renunciation of using cutlery, he would use the burnt skull of the bodies of people and use that as a plate. His food, he would just bag grains of rice, soak that in the Ganges water, and for 7 days at a stretch, he would eat that with little chilies. Totally renounced. But he was also a Sharanagati, Vaishnava. Why? Because Atma Samarpana, he gave himself completely to the shelter of Krishna. So he exemplified both these traits. Sharana lana kare Krishna atma samarpana, Krishna tare kare tat kale atma samana. When a devotee thus fully surrenders unto Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna accepts him as one of his confidential associates. This is why material mundane surrender is totally different from Saranagati, spiritual surrender. When you surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna does not exploit you ever. Krishna, in fact, considers you, he takes you, he accepts you as one of his confidential associates. This is the beauty, this is the wonder, this is the glory of Saranagati. And this is why it's praised, this is why it's encouraged. Because you're not losing. In fact, you are gaining far, far, far more, inconceivably more than anything you could even dream of. So there's three main qualities. One is of detachment. One is of genuine faith. You have faith, you trust that the Lord will protect you and take care of you and bring you into his confidential, as part of his confidential associates. And you accept the lotus feet of the Lord in all respects. One point is, in terms of, you find in many scriptures and many verses, this aspect of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord is described. One meaning of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord is to follow the lotus instructions of the Lord. This is what it means. To the degree you follow the instructions of Krishna in all the scriptures, to that degree it means you are taking shelter of his lotus feet. Right? You are giving yourself in the form of following his instructions, and ultimately you're giving yourself Atma Samarpana. Srila Prabhupada shares with us many different statements from his Bhaktivedanta purports in relation to surrender. And I'll speak a little about, or I'll share some of these statements from his lectures and purports. Prabhupada says, surrender means that I am surrendering to Krishna with full faith that he is quite competent and able to give me protection. That is called surrender. Not that hesitation. Oh, I will surrender to Krishna, and in case of danger, he may not be able to give me protection. That is not surrender. Surrender means to accept favorable things. How I can make progress towards Krishna. And pratikula. Pratikul means rejecting unfavorable things, which are not very congenial for my progress in Krishna consciousness. The Saranagati means surrender, means that Krishna will save me. I'll not do anything against the devotional service. Even there is torture. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, he was tortured by his father. Krishna's mother was tortured by his brother, not outsider. So the demons are so rascal. They don't care for son, sister, mother. No. As soon as it's against my personal sense gratification, I must finish this. But be sure that Krishna will save. Surrender means, Krishna says, that you surrender unto me, sarva dharman parityaja. Let us believe this, that Krishna is asking to surrender. Let me surrender. He must protect me in danger. This is called surrender. Surrender means he has finished all his material business. No more. Surrender means you surrender and work as Krishna says. That is surrender. Surrender means I must be prepared to execute the will of Krishna, not my whims, but Krishna's will. So these are beautiful statements of Srila Prabhupada, giving us this understanding of Saranagati, surrender. Govinda Dasi, one wonderful servant of Srila Prabhupada who joined Srila Prabhupada in the early days of his movement, and they have a beautiful relationship, totally dedicated to Srila Prabhupada and loves Srila Prabhupada completely. So she raised her hand in a lecture one day, and she said, Prabhupada, she asked, what does it mean exactly to surrender? She asked this question, beautiful question. What does it mean exactly to surrender? And Srila Prabhupada gave a beautiful answer. Surrender, Prabhupada replied, is to know that I am nothing. Now compare this in the material world. If you ask anyone in the material world, who are you? Oh boy, they'll have a whole thesis and CV and I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. They give you everything about themselves, like that's me, I'm something. Prabhupada says surrender means I am nothing. As Prabhupada spoke, Govinda Dasi, accustomed to taking dictation, wrote down the answer, while other devotees, some seated on the floor around Prabhupada's desk, some standing in the doorways, listened attentively. I should know, Prabhupada continued, I am less than the stool of a hawk. And Krishna, you are everything. Very, very profound statements. Prabhupada says, that is very difficult. We can find millions of Isaac Newtons and Einsteins, but one very rare soul might be surrendered to Krishna because it is very difficult. So as long as you are thinking that he is more learned than me, or I am more learned than him, that is material. You must know that you are nothing and surrender. So this is the realization we're trying to come to. This is the chord that needs to be struck in our heart. One time, Srila Prabhupada in another lecture, Srila Prabhupada is talking about how disqualified we are. Because we're thinking we qualified, therefore we don't need to surrender to Krishna as I'm qualified. I can protect myself. I'm happy, I'm powerful, I'm intelligent, etc. So Prabhupada is trying to emphasize we're so disqualified, therefore we have to surrender. And he gave the example. He said, you're so disqualified. You can't even remember. Your memory is so weak. So that's one example Prabhupada gave. Because our memory is so weak, we are disqualified. And there may be so many other disqualifications. So when we really realize that I am less than a stool of a hog, and therefore I need to surrender to Krishna, that's when real surrender begins, and Krishna takes charge and Krishna takes control. In Bhagavad-Gita 15:5, Prabhupada gives the process of surrender. The verse says, one who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust, and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and he knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. Purport. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature, it is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated and is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering that the land, this earth, belongs to human society, and they've divided land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One is to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such false notion, he becomes free from all the false association caused by familial, social, and national affections. These fake associations bind one to the material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes fully knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the moment of surrender is when life is not when life is over. It is when it begins. So really when we surrender, that's when life really begins, not otherwise. This picture, Srila Bhakti Maharaj wrote about his memories of Srila Prabhupada and this ocean in his book called Ocean of Mercy. And this picture is a very, very wonderful picture that we can meditate and contemplate on in relation to Saranagati, which corresponds to this verse in the Bible. It says, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like a little child, become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So we should become children of the Supreme Lord, or in this case, children of Srila Prabhupada. A child is completely dependent on his father. Srila Prabhupada and Krishna are fully capable. But as small children, we're not educated, we're not experienced, our abilities and skills are not developed. We are dependent at every moment. We're dependent for food, we're dependent for shelter, we're dependent for protection, we're dependent in every way. But when we have a powerful father like Krishna, or a powerful grandfather like Srila Prabhupada, who is a perfect Saranagati, perfect surrendered soul, and he holds us by our hand and takes us to the spiritual world, takes us to the shelter of Krishna, then all obstacles and everything we need is there. So this mood, this consciousness is really what we need to develop. We need to become children. We need to become childlike. Prabhupada says, if you develop the innocence of a child, you'll see the deities, you'll see Krishna dancing on the altar. So that's the consciousness we need to develop. That is Saranagati, because a child doesn't think, oh, I'll protect myself. No, when there's some danger, the child just runs behind the father because he knows daddy will protect me, no problem. The child never asks the parents, where's food? Are you going to make sure there's food food tomorrow? No, food will be always there on the table. So instead of becoming lord and masters of this world, we should become innocent children, surrendering at the lotus feet of our Supreme Father, Krishna. So surrender is based on the loving relationship like the father and the child. It's based on love, not on fear, not on duty, but on love. And His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj shares this principle very, very nicely, that Saranagati is based on love. So I'd like to share this video where Maharaj is speaking that it's really a question of a loving relationship. So his accent may be a little difficult, but the sound vibration will be purifying for us.
Giving up all varieties of love, just surrender unto me. Yes, this is everything. But how to surrender? It is very easy to say, but difficult to execute it. Do it. How to surrender? Without love, you cannot surrender. There is no question of surrender at all. You understand? No question of surrender. Your surrender is either artificial or partial or conditional. It is not true surrender. True surrender is based upon love, based upon love. You understand? Based upon love. So when such question of love is there, you are actually surrendered. Then situated in your constitutional position as the servant of Krishna, eternal servant of Krishna. Jiver Surubhoy, Krishna Nityala. So Prabhupada Maharaj says, living constitutionally a servant of the Lord, to engage in the service of the Lord is natural function. Is natural function. Is Atma Bhuti. It is function of the soul. It is not the function of the body or mind. It is function of the soul. It is natural function. Because we have eternal, perfect, loving relationship with Krishna. So service should be done in perfect love, pure love. Then Krishna will accept. And what is that love? Mahaprabhu teaches. Ramya kachidupasana brajavadhu vragena jakalpita. He gave the example. Ramya kachidupasana brajavadhu vragena jakalpita. As the damsels of Brajabhumi have done. You understand? How they have rendered service, loving service unto Krishna. You understand? Such service should be rendered. How? What they did? What they did? Huh? You see? You see? They gave the dust from their feet. Isn't it? They gave the dust from their feet. And thought of all right, by giving dust, if we have to go to hell, let us go to hell and suffer there forever. This is love. This is love. You understand? This is love. Nadarthe takta dehika. Nadarthe takta sarvasva. Nadarthe takta sonamandhava. That Krishna said. For me, they have given up. They are prepared to give up their body, their life. They have given up everything for me. They have given up, kicked their kids and kin, family members, everything. They love me so much. How can I leave them? They love me so much. Do you understand? This is question of love. That means, if Krishna wants, we have to go to hell and suffer there forever. Let us go. This is love. Let Krishna be happy. Let Krishna be happy. Because his happiness is the only thing required. This is question of love. They are prepared. So they gave. Rukmini Satyabhama, Jambavati, 16,000 wives, they hesitated to give the dust. They hesitated. Because they have not such love. Their love is mixed love. You understand? They have love, but it's mixed with jnana aishwarya. So, priti sankuchita. It's pretty sankuchita. It's shrunken love, not open wide. That's Draupadi, the Mahaprabhu says, as the gopis have done. As gopis have done. How they have rendered loving service. They are prepared to go to hell and suffer. Do you understand? One who has developed such love, why you go to hell and suffer there? Why Krishna said, because this love, this is your test of love for Krishna. Do you understand? Do you understand? But stupid mind doesn't want. Oh, no, I cannot suffer. Oh, I'll enter into the fire. I'll fall into ashes. Then? Yes, fall into ashes if Krishna is pleased. That is the only thing. That is the goal of life. That is the perfection of life. To please Krishna. If Krishna will please thee, I will be born to ashes. Then, why hesitate? Why hesitate? Why hesitate? You don't want to give pleasure to Krishna. You want your own pleasure. Stupid mind wants his own pleasure. Isn't it? Bhakti hide his stupid mind. Servant of mind. Not servant of Krishna. Servant of mind. Stupid mind wants. You see, this is love. Padaham Pritipurvakam. This is most important. Saranam brother, this word brother is significant, is brother pray. Brotherangana, that says. Brother Mudhuvar Dakalpita. Mahaprabhu says, this word you say, very significant word, brother. Brother prem. Amamya onyanare brother premodite, Mahaprabhu says. Without me, nobody can give brother prem. Brother Mudhuvar Dakalpita, and the damsels of Brother Bhumi have done. You serve Krishna in that way, in that love. Then Krishna will accept. This is love. Then Krishna will hear your prayer. Krishna will hear your prayer. Otherwise, while Krishna will hear your prayer, is he your order supplier? Is he your servant? Whatever you say, Krishna will say, yes, take. No. He's not your order supplier. He's not your servant.
So Srila Mahaprabhu taught this highest emblem of pure love of the residents of Vrindavan. They are completely, totally surrendered to Krishna. Their surrender is of the highest level. And following in their footsteps, we try to surrender to the Supreme Lord as they are our example. So what is the result of surrendering to Krishna? A surrendered soul never falls down. Surrender unto the Supreme Lord Hari vanquishes misery and charms the heart with the Lord's divine sweetness. Completely vanquishing all fear, surrender bestows a life of eternal nectar. A surrendered soul is successful in all endeavors. All worldly suffering is vanquished for the surrendered soul. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, is effortlessly attained for the surrendered souls. By surrender, even persons of uncontrolled senses attain all good fortune. A surrendered soul achieves all perfection, protection, and bliss. But why don't we surrender? Govinda Maharaj said, the rascal mind. So the only obstacle in surrendering, in Saranagati, is this I, the ego, the false ego. Prabhupada said pride, I'm something. This is the only obstacle. And that is why we find so many prayers ends off with this word namaha. Namamishwaram, word nama is there. We're offering obeisances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Namaha. So what is this word Namaha? Namaste. When you greet someone, Namaste. What is this Nama? Very deep. It's broken in two words, Na and Ma. So the syllable Ma means self-asserting ego, the misconception of considering oneself to be a doer. This is Ma. The false ego, it represents false ego, pride. I'm something, I'm great, I can do things, I'm powerful, I can protect myself. And Na, syllable Na indicates its prevention, trying to nullify. So when you put these words together, the act of offering obeisances, Nama, nullifies the offerer's independence. When you offer obeisances, you are really saying, I'm giving up my false ego. I'm giving up this controlling propensity. I'm giving up this doership. The soul is naturally subordinate to the Lord. His intrinsic nature, innate function, Prabhupada says natural function, is being servitude to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all actions performed thinking, I am the doer, should be utterly abandoned. So the only obstacle in surrender is the self-asserting ego. As long as a living being clings to such an illusory separate interest, he does not give up the miserable world of action and reaction, birth and death, despite its utter meaninglessness. And the beauty is even the lowest men are liberated by surrender. So understanding Saranagati and trying to apply it in our life is really what Krishna consciousness is all about. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written many, many songs, and he's compiled 50 songs in simple Bengali language, so that everyone, by hearing these songs, they would have the truths gleaned from all the Vedic wisdom, very simply, very systematically, to the point in these songs. So in these 50 songs called Saranagati, surrendered to the Lord's shelter, he describes what surrender is and all the limbs of surrender. These 50 songs are divided into the different limbs of surrender. So even though they summarized into 6, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given 10 different limbs of surrender. He starts off one song with the introduction to surrender, creating auspiciousness and giving the definition of surrender, which we're going to cover as our last part of this session. Then he goes into discussing Dana, which is humility, Atmanivedana, self-submission, and there's 7 songs related to humility, 8 songs related to Atmanivedana, Gopi Tritve Varana, embracing the Lord's guardianship, there's 4 songs. Then Avasha Rakshibe Krishna's confidence in the Lord's protection, there's 4 songs. Bhakti Anukul, accepting those things that are favorable, 4 songs. Bhakti Pratikul, rejecting those things which are unfavorable, 4 songs. Then hankering for service, Bhajan Lalasa, 13 songs. Then there's hankering for perfection and fulfillment, Siddhi Lalasa, 3 songs. There's prayer heartfelt hankering, Vignapati, and the glories of Sri Nam Mahatmya, one song. So these songs describe Sharanagati in complete, it's like in total completeness. Just by going through the songs, we'll be able to understand everything related to Sharanagati so that we can apply it in our lives. What we're going to do is today we're going to cover the first song and briefly go through its meaning, and then we'll conclude. And tomorrow we're going to then start, we're going to share with you where we're going to start with the 6 limbs. And the first limb we're going to start, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts with Dana, humility. As Prabhupada says, right, the first principle, the beginning of surrender is removal of pride. I'm worse than the stool of the hog. That's humility. When you realize your shortcomings, when you realize you are incapable. But Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Nectar Bhakti Nectar Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he starts with those things which are favorable. So he starts with Bhakti Anukul. So we're going to start with Bhakti Anukul, and then we'll come to humility as the final limb.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori Shapar Shado Shio Dham Shahoya Bhuturi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori Shapar Shado Shio Dham Shahoya Bhuturi Ottanto Durlabho Prem Koribare Dan Shikhaye Sharanagati Bhakatero Pran Ottanto Durlabho Prem Koribare Dan Shikhaye Sharanagati Bhakatero Pran Doinayatma Nivedana Goptrite Varo Abosho Rakhibe Krishna Vishasho Palom Doinayatma Nivedana Goptrite Varo Abosho Rakhibe Krishna Vishasho Palom Bhakti Onu Kulo Matra Karjero Shika Bhakti Prati Kulo Bhav Varjanangika Bhakti Anukulo Matra Karjero Shika Bhakti Prati Kulo Bhav Varjanangika সরঙ্গ শরণাগতি হইবে যাহা তাহার প্রার্থনা শুনে শ্রীনন্দ কুমার সরঙ্গ শরণাগতি হইবে যাহা তাহার প্রার্থনা শুনে শ্রীনন্দ কুমার রূপসনা তন পদে দন্তে তৃণ করি ভকতি বিনোদ করে দুহু পদ ধরি রূপ সনাতন পদে দন্তে তৃণ করি ভকতি বিনোদ করে দুহু পদ ধরি কাঁদিয়া কাঁদিয়া বলে আমি তো অধম শিখায়ে শরণাগতি করো হে উত্তম কাঁদিয়া কাঁদিয়া বলে আমি তো অধম শিখায়ে শরণাগতি করো হে উত্তম শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু জীবে দয়া করি সপার্ষদশীয় ধাম সহয়বতরি শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু জীবে দয়া করি সপার্ষদশীয় ধাম সহয়বতরি শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু জীবে দয়া করি সপার্ষদশীয় ধাম সহয়বতরি
In this beautiful song, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is sharing Saranagati. Excuse they didn't remove the automatic timer, so therefore the slides were moving on their own. So he's sharing, and we're going to go through the translation, and this will conclude for today's session. It is no doubt difficult to surrender to the Supreme Lord, but it's not impossible. When we understand what is surrender, what is Saranagati, the mercy is there for us to embrace and grab so that the process of Saranagati becomes very, very simple and easy. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu descended from the eternal spiritual world along with his personal associates and divine abode, incarnating in this temporary material world out of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Mahaprabhu came to this world out of love, out of compassion for us. And why did he come? he came atyanta durlabha prema kori bare dan, in order to freely distribute the gift of ecstatic love of God, which is very difficult to obtain. So Srila Prabhupada came to give pure love of Krishna, which is atyanta durlabha, very, very difficult. And why is it very difficult? It's described because bhakti means you need to serve the devotees. Bhakti means you have to understand the position of Krishna, understand Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. Bhakti means that you have to surrender with pure loving devotion to Krishna without any ulterior motive. When one surrenders to the Supreme Lord and fully gives oneself to pleasing Krishna, that is pure devotion, and that is extremely difficult, dullabha. When you surrender to Krishna, one of the challenges is that you also don't know how Krishna is going to reciprocate. It is a condition of the living entity that when you surrender, you want to surrender and you are waiting for the response, you're waiting for the reciprocation, because you already premeditated, I'm surrendering and I want Krishna to respond like this. That is not true surrender. True surrender means I surrender and leave the response to Krishna. And Krishna's response is unpredictable. So that also why bhakti is very, very difficult, very durlabha. There's a nice pastime. Srila Prabhupada went to Bhuvaneshwar, and Gorgoina Maj, he had tasked Gorgoina Maj to translate the Bhagavatam into Orient language. So Gorgoina Maj went to Bhuvaneshwar. He was the one that started the center there preaching. So Prabhupada went and stayed with him, and Prabhupada asked him how far is he with the Orient translation. And he said, well, Srila Prabhupada, it's, I'm still busy, it's taking time. So then Prabhupada said, why is it taking time? He says, well, because I got a lot of management to do as well. I'm the only one here. So Prabhupada said, well, you should hand over the management to someone, and you should dedicate more time to translating. And he said, well, there's nobody, I'm the only one here. So then Gorgoina Maj, he said, I'm the only one, so it's very difficult. Prabhupada noticed one devotee. And he said, well, why don't that devotee stay behind or take the management role? And Gorgoina Maj said, well, that devotee is practically leaving tomorrow. He's made all arrangements and is flying out tomorrow. Prabhupada said, so he should stay. He should change his plan. So this is the unpredictable nature of bhakti. The pure devotee and Krishna, they can change plans, and the reciprocation is unpredictable. So Gorgoina Maj said, well, Prabhupada, you should tell him. I'm not going to tell him because he already made plans. So immediately, Prabhupada called the disciple and told the disciple came, offered obeisance, asked Prabhupada, what, can he do for Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada said, I want you to stay and manage this center so that Gorgoina Maj can finish the Orient translation. And he, the devotee, he said, but Prabhupada, the weather here is very, very difficult, and I can't, tolerate the weather. And Prabhupada said, it's okay, if you stay long enough, you'll get used to it. Then he said, but Prabhupada, the food, I can't digest the food. It's just very difficult for my system. Prabhupada said, no, don't worry. I was a pharmacist, and I know this. So I'll give you prescription exactly what you need to eat and how you must eat, and you'll be okay. So this devotee thought, he realized this is not going anywhere. It looks like Prabhupada, serious. So he said, but Prabhupada, I need to fly to America tomorrow because they made arrangements for another, and I'm heading up another department there. So I have to, and I'm the only one that can head up the department. Prabhupada said, no, don't worry, we'll get somebody else there. You stay and manage. So then He said, no, but Prabhupada, I can't manage a GBC here. Prabhupada said, don't worry, we'll change the GBC also immediately. Then he said, but Srila Prabhupada, you know, if I manage, I can't chant 16 rounds. It's very difficult. At least in America, I can chant 16 rounds. So Prabhupada said, if you manage and you've got no time to chant, it's also okay. You stay and chant. So devotee immediately could understand, no way out. So he asked Prabhupada, okay, what must I do? Prabhupada said, you stay and manage. So this is why it's difficult, because you have to surrender, you know, to the will and the desire of the pure devotee and Krishna. So in order to distribute this gift of love of Krishna, which is very difficult, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the path of Saranagati, devotional surrender to the Supreme Lord. And this Saranagati is the life of a true devotee. Which means that through the process of Saranagati, we get the gift that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. And what is this path of Saranagati? The 6 ways of surrender through Saranagati are Dainya, humility, Atmanivedana, dedication of the self, Gopitre Varna, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, the consciousness of Avashya Rat Shibe Krishna, Krishna will surely protect me, which is Vishwas, faith in Krishna's Palana, protection, Bhakti Anukul Matra Karyera Swikara, execution of only those acts favorable to pure devotion, and Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjana Gikara, renunciation of the conduct averse to pure devotion. So these are the 6 limbs that we're going to go into detail through the songs of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so that we can at least extract as much as we can to understanding Saranagati, so that we can apply it in our devotional life. And if you do this, if you follow this path of Saranagati, which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has extracted from all the acharyas and scriptures and put into these songs, which we're going to cover over the next 5 days, what happens? Shri Nanda Kumar, the youthful son of Nanda Maharaj, hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by this 6-fold practice of surrender. Krishna hears your prayer. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur prostrates himself at the feet of Srila Rupa and Srila Sanatana Goswami, places a straw between his teeth and clasps the lotus feet with his hands. Weeping and weeping, he tells them, I am certainly the lowest of men. Oh, please make me the worthiest by teaching me the ways of Saranagati. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is wonderfully giving the example how he's seeing himself as worthless, and he's surrendering to the Goswamis, praying for the mercy, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, so that they can bless us and we can follow this path of Saranagati. Lord Chaitanya wants us to get this gift. His associates want us to get this gift. All our acharyas want us to get this gift. Srila Prabhupada wants us to get this gift. So we have an abundant flow of mercy our way. We just need the desire to accept and follow this beautiful path of Saranagati. Srila Prabhupada, in the preface to Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, Lord Krishna's ultimate instruction in Bhagavad-Gita is that everyone should surrender unto him. Lord Krishna, unto him, Lord Krishna. Krishna promises to take immediate charge of such a surrendered soul. The Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is already in charge of the maintenance of this creation by virtue of his plenary expansions, Shiradak Sai Vishnu. But this maintenance is not direct. However, when the Lord says that he takes charge of his pure devotee, he actually takes direct charge. A pure devotee is a soul who is forever surrendered to the Lord, just as a child is surrendered to his parents or an animal to his master. Remember the example that we gave of Srila Prabhupada holding Bhakti Charumaja's hand. He's illustrating himself like a child, and Srila Prabhupada holding his hand. So this is the example Prabhupada is also giving. In the surrendering process, one should, one, accept things favorable for discharging devotional service. 2, reject things unfavorable. 3, always believe firmly in the Lord's protection. 4, feel exclusively dependent on the mercy of the Lord. 5, have no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. And 6, always feel oneself meek and humble. The Lord demands that one surrender unto him by following these 6 guidelines. But the unintelligent so-called scholars of the world misunderstand these demands and urge the general mass of people to reject them. So these 6 are what we're going to cover, and we'll cover the other aspects that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also shared, maybe briefly. So tomorrow we're going to be covering the first one, which is to accept things favorable for discharging devotional service. In relation to this limb of surrender, Prabhupada in a lecture says, we are part and parcel of Krishna, so our only business is to satisfy Krishna. Then it is perfect life. That we have forgotten. Therefore Krishna comes and says, you rascal, you fool, you just surrender unto me. You'll be happy. Why are you planning so many things? Rascal planning. That will not make you happy. Sarva dharman parit. You have planned so many rascaldoms. You give up all this. Simply make this, take this planning. Surrender unto me. Saranagati. Saranagati. That is the beginning of Vaishnava philosophy. Anukulyasya sankalpa. Anyabilasita sunyam jnana karmana vartam anukulyana krishna anushilanam bhakti rutama. That this is wanted. Simply try to understand what Krishna desires and try to satisfy him. That is perfection of life. And that brings us to the end of this first session, introduction to the 6 limbs of Saranagati. We should try to memorize these 6 limbs of Saranagati. And I'll take any questions or comments that anyone has.
Hi, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I think there is some questions in the chat.
Yeah.
From I think maybe we could answer.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through them.
Yeah.
I saw Bafana Prabhu's statement, so let's read that.
Okay,
I read
I'm on
somewhere.
my side, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. I'm just going to gather the Go Matas just for this snack, and then I'll leave you to do that, right? Yeah.
No problem. I read somewhere this person asserts that due to the nature of our femininity in men and masculinity in women, there therefore cannot be total full surrender. So he says, unlike who is, there's this word, Bafana Prabhu, you need to type that word, who is fully woman and Krishna being fully man. So unlike maybe the living entity or Narada, who is fully woman and Krishna being fully man, they therefore compatible, or Radha, right. Unlike Radha, who is fully woman and Krishna being fully man, they therefore compatible and they merge in oneness. This is a strong statement. Can you share what's your comment or take on this? So here's the principle. In the material world, we have male and female bodies. Both are conditioned and both is an obstacle to surrendering. Whether you have a male body or female body, it is immaterial for us to perfect surrender. Because surrender is not in relation to the body. It's in relation to the natural function of the soul. And the soul is one of Krishna's energies, marginal energy. And all of Krishna's energies are feminine in nature. Krishna, who is the owner, Shaktiman, the possessor of energy, is the Purusha, the possessor, masculine. So all of Krishna's energies, including us, are feminine. It's got nothing to do with male and female bodies. It's the energy and the possessor of energy. That's where the principle lies. One who has energy, he can employ his energies for his pleasure. So therefore the energies give pleasure to the enjoyer. Right? So this is the principle. Most people don't understand these things, and they, because and you'll never understand as long as you're on a material plane. So you thinking I'm male, female, you'll not understand these things. From a lecture, I realize that there can be surrender by way of full knowledge of the Lord, exchanging it from the self-asserting ego. Yes. The more we understand, the more we have knowledge of surrender, the more we can then apply. That is why we're doing the seminar, so that we can understand what is Saranagati, what are the limbs of Saranagati, what's entailed. And we may not get everything, but at least we get the gist. At least we get the principles. At least we get the important points. And even if you get 1 point and you apply that 1 point, you are progressing on the path. That 1 point will help you get the other points. And in this way, we progressively move. And when Krishna sees that one is just like a child, consider that child is trying its best to do something. Sometimes the parents, they love to see the child struggling, gives them pleasure. Like the child is trying to open a door, or the child is trying, let's say the parents gave the child a toy, and the toy is in a box. So the child now is trying and fumbling and trying to open the box, and the parents, they're looking and they're happy seeing the child struggle for some time. And then they go and they help the child open the toy. So like that, sometimes Krishna sees that, yes, we're struggling, it gives him pleasure. And then Krishna can intervene and bestow so much mercy that this path of the surrender expedites. The fact of being a need for understanding, my small conclusion is, it is through thorough knowledge of the Lord, subject to correction. So yes, it starts with knowledge. We try to understand. That is why Prabhupada gave so much book. That's what Acharyas exhaustively gave so much, so that we can try to understand. Vidura Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, what better message of surrendering through the meditative song that one can achieve through selfless engagement. Yes, it's amazing how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur presented these songs, and simply by singing, he's educating. Now, we don't know Bengali, but imagine those who know Bengali, they're hearing the Bengali, it's singing, beautiful, they may even dance at it, and they're getting educated. For us, we can sing, and if we memorize the song, it's also wonderful. Some of the songs it's famous. Tomorrow we'll cover a famous song. So definitely a wonderful way to share wisdom about surrender. Mother Ratna Lekha Gopi says, Hare Krishna, this is the most important lecture for me. Your text skills are tops, and your presentation has thus become so clear. Thank you for your time and wonderful service for helping us in this way. We are indeed indebted. We are indeed indebted. So I'm simply rendering a little service to the Vaishnavas, so that we can help each other. By me sharing this, I'm also preaching and educating myself on the principle of Saranagati. And this is our service to Srila Prabhupada as well. Mata Archana Siddhi says, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for this beautiful class. Thank you. Sharina says, how will you know what pleases Krishna? And what you are doing is not simply executing your own desire. So that is what we're going to cover tomorrow. That whole subject, because one of the limbs of surrender is to please Krishna by doing what pleases him. What pleases him? We're going to cover all those limbs tomorrow in this beautiful song. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave it in the song. So we're going to go through the song and we're going to learn exactly what pleases Krishna. What should your prayer be when you want Krishna to show you what path you must take? Very simple. You simply go to Krishna and ask him, my Lord, please direct me what path I need to take. And if you're sincere, Krishna will reveal the path. Now, when Krishna reveals the path, it's the prayer should not be, Krishna, please send me a WhatsApp message to tell me exactly the path I need to take. Because now you're going to go to your phone and now you're going to wait for the WhatsApp message. And unfortunately, you may never get the WhatsApp message. See, how Krishna is going to reveal to you, that you need to be a little conscious about. Your prayer is, please reveal to me. Now you're waiting for the signs of Krishna revealing to you. And Krishna may do that in many, many, many ways. I'll give you an example. Because Krishna is there as the super soul. He's in your heart. So Krishna knows your prayer. Before you even ask it, he knows it, but he likes you to ask. So one devotee was distributing books. And he very compassionate, he's giving people and trying to give them the books of Srila Prabhupada. So he came to a place where there was an ATM. So he thought this is a wonderful place because people are drawing money, they'll be able to give. So he stood there and the person took the money out from the ATM. So he approached him and says, hey, this book will be very good for you. You should take it. It will help you in your spiritual journey. And the man said, I'm not interested. But the devotee's heart was crying to Krishna, please, he must get the book. Even if he doesn't give, so much money, but he must get the book. So Krishna inspired the devotee to say this. So he looked at the man and he said, tomorrow is your birthday. You should take this as a gift for you. And the man was shocked. How did you know it's my birthday tomorrow? So the man was baffled. This is a stranger. He doesn't know me from a bar of soap. And how did he know it's my birthday? He was so impressed, so caught up. He said, yes, give me the book. Yeah, he gave a donation. So Krishna inspired the devotee to say the appropriate words. So Krishna can give you the message in different ways. So simply pray and let Krishna reveal the message. Now, when Krishna reveals the message, if you're sincere, you'll take it up without any doubt. Mother Navkishori says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavas Pranam. Thank you for such a beautiful class. Thank you very much. Thank you very Bafana Prabhu for also sharing your comments and feedback. Krishna Kirtan Prabhu says, thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Salmoni, I got that spelling correctly. Don't know if it's good for the devotees to use if you're initiated name, user initiated name. That we also, we get to know who's here. There could be a WhatsApp message from the temple president to do some service for Lord Krishna. Will speak in a different medium. All right. Yep. Mother Lorraine, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. And she says, thank you for the awesome class. Damodar Jani Devidasi from South Africa says, Hare Krishna, 5,000 years ago, Arjuna found it so difficult to surrender, but eventually did. In this period, is it at all possible to fully surrender? Everything we think is so contaminated as compared 5,000 years ago. Even 5,000 years ago, there was still virtue of pious human beings. Very, very important realization and question. And we're going to cover this in this process of surrender. So you are perfectly correct. 5,000 years ago, it was difficult. Yet Arjuna was an Aryan. He was the best among human beings. It's described in this age, Kali Yuga. We are so fallen. We are so hopeless. We are so contaminated. Therefore, we are given the most simplest, most powerful, and most effective way because of our fallen condition. Wait for tomorrow. Sharina says, thank you, Prabhu. Kiran Imbro says, wow, Prabhu, this was so beautiful, simplistically presented. Thank you. Mother Daneshwari says, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you so much for the amazing class. Shama says, thank you very much, Prabhu, for taking the time to share the knowledge. Rasaraj Prabhu says, thank you, wonderful presentation. Thank you very much for all the devotees being present. We hope we can shed some light so that at least after the next 5 days, we will be more dedicated, more sincere, and be able to take to this path of Saranagati so that we can also get this wonderful loving embrace, just as baby Krishna is hugging Mother Yashoda and Mother Yashoda is hugging Krishna. We can be in this loving embrace of Radha Damodar. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All over to you, Mukund. Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the class. Thank you, everybody, for staying on the line. Just a bonus, a treat for everybody that's still on the line. And during the Kartik Mass, you guys not here to feed the Gomata. So for these 5 days, we will be treating the Gomatas to some nice treats for them. So I'm gonna take you outside just to take some darshan of the Gomatas, okay? If you want to stay online, feel free to stay online. Prabhu, can you maybe unshare, then I can just put it on full screen and then everybody can just get a better view. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
pick up. Okay. That's it for everyone. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 6:30. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Prabhu.